So, Nik Nak Podcast, we're continuing our position by position rankings. Next up, we're going to go with wide receivers, and we're going to run through our rankings quickly of about 30 wide receivers each and see where we differ. We're not going to go in depth on each one, but we'll tell you where we have them going down the list.
Yeah, and
give our opinions on why we got certain guys higher than the other and vice versa. So, Nick.
and we're gonna do half point PPR, and besides that, standard scoring. And also, if you want a full list of our rankings, check out our blog site. Should be in the bio of the video, and you'll see the full list of all our positions. So receivers. Number one, no surprise. I think you kind of a lunatic if you don't pick
Antonio Brown.
AB. But Knuckle, let me ask you a question. I'm not gonna tell you how good of a receiver AB is, but with the loss of Le'Veon for the first 4 games, does that help or hurt his status? Because you can think on one side he'll get more targets, but he'll get more attention too. So what do you think about AB with the first 4 games? I know I'm
not seeing much of a I guess difference here. Like, I don't think it's going to affect him to the point of pushing him one way or the other on your draft board. I think that he's going to get his numbers. It's going to be about the same. There wasn't much of a change once Le'Veon Bell went down last year, and I think that's not something that's really going to affect him this year. What do you think?
One thing that I love for receivers is targets. Like, I look at targets more than receptions, because I know, like, if the ball's coming, if you're a featured part of the offense, the production is going to come. He had 193 targets last year, only second to Julio Jones. I see that around 200 this year. I don't see it decreasing by any means, and Martavis Bryant out 4 games will help his case too.
Yep.
So moving on to 2, Julio. So I love Julio.
Julio Jones. Yep.
I had Julio last year. I think you did too.
I did too. Yep.
So pet peeve of Julio. He led the league in receiving yards last year, 1,800. He only had 8 touchdowns, which was like I think 4th or 5th. It was down the list. It might have even been lower than that.
Yeah.
8 touchdowns is pretty low from the number 2 overall wide receiver.
It is, but he had all the targets in the world. He had a bunch of games where he probably won your week many times, and if not, then he gave you enough to at least be a competent wide receiver. And even with Matt Ryan throwing to him, that's counts for a lot, and that's why Julio Jones is the kind of guy who can anchor your team, and that's why you should take him in round 1.
Also, I felt like because I had him last year, he performed much better at home. I mean, but like in a dome. Because I think Matt Ryan is a terrible quarterback on the road and the outdoor weather, and when he's at home, like Julio, like I feel like he had a bunch of plays where he could have got touchdowns, which
he didn't.
Marked short at the 5, 4, 3 yard line.
Definitely, that's probably something that we were going to further in depth on this video. I'd want to look up.
Yeah.
How many times he was tackled inside the 5 or inside the 10?
There was like a few times like nose like a shoestring tackle. Like he should have been in the end zone. Could have been much higher. Led the league in targets at 203. With Mohamed Sanu there, I think it's going to increase his productivity. So 3 or 4, Knuckle, we disagree.
We did.
You're going Odell. I'm going Hopkins. We can't really go wrong here. You know, it's picking apples and oranges, but
they're both volume guys. Like, you're gonna see, they're both number 1 options in their offenses. I think it just comes down to I trust Eli more than I trust Brock Osweiler.
Yeah,
and that's why I have Odell in their higher. And who knows? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Brock Osweiler have this amazing chemistry, but until we see it, we just don't know. And that's why I feel more confident taking Odell Beckham right here, but it's very close. I just have Odell higher because I trust Eli more throwing him the ball.
So the one reason, and I don't want to bore you guys with targets, but DeAndre Hopkins had 40 more targets than Odell, and 40, that's about like 2-3 more games if you think about that. Odell's a freak. When he gets the ball, he can be a touchdown any play. I mean, Hopkins is the same way.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like Knuckles said, there's uncertainty at the quarterback position, and that's going to affect Hopkins. But when you have receivers of this talent, any ball is going to be catchable, and I'm not too worried about their production at all. At 5, we have AJ Green, who's I think the model of consistency. If you look at like the last 5 years of fantasy football and name a receiver has been in the top 5, it might just be AJ Green. Julio might be in there, but AJ Green's always up there.
Like last year was
besides injuries.
Not even besides injuries, I think if you're looking at a guy who's almost guaranteed to get you like 10 points a week, AJ Green's your guy.
Yeah.
He might he has his games too where last year he had week 3, 227 yards and 2 touchdowns. Week 7, 118 yards and a touchdown. Week 12 and 13, he went off for a combined 250 yards and 2 touchdowns those weeks, and that's his ceiling, of course. But then you're looking at the other weeks where he had 78 yards, 79 yards, 61 yards, 37 yards, 57 yards. Like,
yeah,
there's gonna be a lot. Like last year, it was a little injury plagued, but AJ Green is as consistent as they come. And I think that he'd be a great choice to be number one wide receiver on your team.
Yeah, absolutely. So at 6 is where we start, differing a little bit. You're going with Allen Robinson. I know how much you like the Jaguars. Mm-hmm. I'm going with Dez. Talk a little bit about Allen Robinson and what you expect from this year.
I think last year he just had a monster year, and if you want to talk about Dez a little bit, I just have my doubts about his durability again. So let me go into that a little bit more. But Dez, of course, had the foot injury last year. You don't see a lot of guys, especially at Dez's age, come back fully healthy from that. Even though right now reports say that he is 100% open camp, full go.
Did you see the video of him dropping those balls on the machine?
I did.
Maybe he's not full go.
Yeah.
Which is I think he was fucking with us. I don't know, and you see Odell comes out with a video of him catching one-hand balls off that.
Yeah. So go on. Talk about Allen Robinson again. 80 catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That is awesome.
He came out of nowhere, right? He was a good college receiver, but
people knew he had the talent. But injured played coming out of college, and in Jacksonville where careers supposedly went to die. But T.J. Yeldon, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns all turned in great season last year, and Blake Bortles. So I think that's going to continue. I think Allen Robinson's a freak, and he was a fantasy gift from the gods for anyone who drafted him last year, especially kind of late. I had him on at least 2 teams, and I loved every moment of it, and that's why I have him this high up over guys like Des Bryant and Brandon Marshall.
So with Dez, I'm actually more concerned about Tony Romo's health than Dez's health. I think Romo is so fragile right now. Next time he gets hurt, who's coming in at quarterback? Is it Dak Prescott? I don't know who's going to play quarterback. I mean, we saw last year that Boise State quarterback, I forget his name, he came in at the end of the year, and they could not get Dez was playing, but if you don't have a good quarterback, you still need a decent quarterback to give you the ball, and he could not get the job done. And Dez is dependent on Romo just as Romo's depending on Dez, and I think Ezekiel Elliott's gonna help Des Bryant clear up the space. And that O-line is, the O-line's the best, right? So if everything works to plan, I think Dez is gonna have a good year, and he's a touchdown machine. And I don't see the ball going to Witten or Terrence Williams. I mean, Dez is their guy. So
Kellen Moore is the guy you were talking about, by the way.
Yeah.
One wide receiver who really baffles me that people are this low on him this year. Maybe you can tell me why. He's one of those guys who last year you would throw into this group with the AJ Greens, the Des Bryants, the Julio Joneses of the world, and that's Demaryius Thomas.
Oh wow!
In Denver. What? Brandon Marshall?
I thought you could say Brandon Marshall.
No, I'm past Brandon Marshall. But Demaryius Thomas is, by all accounts, coming in this year as wide receiver 10, wide receiver 11. I have people seeing him around 15, 16, and it really makes you wonder why. Because he's still the number one wide receiver in that offense. Yes, it's gonna be maybe Mark Sanchez throwing him the ball, but the guy's still a monster. And if a quarterback can at least get him the ball, then that's gonna be a steal for anyone who takes him in round 3 or 4, showing him that's where he's going right now. So what do you think about Demaryius?
I love Demaryius. So I have him at 16, and you have him at 10, which is a pretty big difference. You basically have him as a wide receiver, a low end wide receiver 1. Yeah. I have him as maybe a high wide receiver 2. My thing about Demaryius is not about him; it's more about Emmanuel Sanders, because I think Emmanuel Sanders is a great receiver, and I think that really eats up his targets. I remember when Peyton Manning was in his prime in Denver a couple years ago. It seemed like he almost favored Emmanuel sometimes more, even though Demaryius was the better overall receiver. I think Demaryius' talent is through the roof. Mark Sanchez, I'm having difficulty understanding that. I think Kubiak's going to want to run the ball a lot this year. And I think Demaryius will be touchdown dependent. So if you're drafting Demaryius as a wide receiver 1, you need Demaryius to get you 10-plus touchdowns to justify the investment. At least that's my rule of thumb. He's not going to get many yards because I don't think Sanchez is going to air it out that much unless he's going to pull what he did in the playoff game with Tebow and run it 80 yards, which is fully capable of. It's really dependent on Sanchez. I don't know. What do you think about Sanchez, and why do you think that he's going to outperform Emmanuel Sanders? So I think they're the same level.
I think Demaryius Thomas had a down year last year because, like you said, Peyton Manning was not performing like Peyton Manning that we know, and people thought that he was going to come in and be able to spread the ball around to all these receivers, and Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas did get there sometimes last year, and I think that coming this year, Mark Sanchez, while it makes bonehead decisions, is productive yardage-wise. And if he has a wide receiver he trusts, which I think he will trust Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, you're going to see him be able to get them the ball. And I think they're both headed for pretty solid years. Maybe not like top 10 wide receiver years, but for at least in Demaryius' case, a wide receiver 1, and Emmanuel Sanders maybe low-end wide receiver 2.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, the jury's out. So let's talk about Jordy Nelson coming back from a major knee injury last year. He's coming back to the number one guy. He's a go-to guy again. And we saw last year Randall Cobb could not sustain being a number 1 receiver. So now you see Jordy Nelson. Do you have concerns? Let's say he stays healthy. I can't see him not finishing a wide receiver 1. How is that possible?
The only thing that's going to hold him back is if the kind of normal thing we see from people coming back from ACLs is they kind of overcompensate him, end up injuring themselves on the other side, and that's kind of what we're kind of seeing signs of now in training camp.
Yeah, he tweaked something the other day.
It's not the leg that he got, not the leg he injured last year. It's the other one. So I think you see problems with overcorrection there. But if he comes back from that, then yeah, you're right. He's got to be a wide receiver 1. But in my case, I'm going to be avoiding him in all my drafts this year probably, unless for some reason in that one auction draft I can grab him for pretty cheap.
Right.
But that's the thing with Jordy Nelson. If you feel like you want to take the flyer on him early on, or you can grab him a little bit late, do it. But people are going to try to grab him in the second round. I think it's too high.
Would you rather have Jordy Nelson or Amari Cooper? Don't look at your rankings. Just like you're on the
Amari
clock
Cooper.
right now. Right. I think Amari Cooper could finish top 5.
Absolutely.
And that should not be surprising anyone.
And that was gonna be the next guy that I was gonna bring up.
Yeah.
Last year I took a flyer on him late, and after a few weeks, in the first 6 games he had 109 yards, 134 yard game, 133 yard game. I was ready to treat him like a wide receiver 1 because I had Calvin Johnson, who was a little bit disappointing to start out the year, and from there I kind of valued my team accordingly. He did have his struggles going later in the season, his rookie campaign, but Derek Carr loves him. That offense loves him. And now that offensive line is going to give Derek Carr all kinds of time to throw. And when you're talking about a guy like Amari Cooper who runs these efficient routes and gets open, giving him more time is only going to get him more touches further down the field. And I think that's going to be huge for his fantasy value. And you're right. I think he's going to finish the year as a top 10 wide receiver, if not top 5.
Yeah, 130 targets for a rookie is insane. If you're a rookie receiver getting 130 targets, you best believe that's going to increase to like 160, 170. It's going to reach into that upper echelon of top 5 receivers getting those targets. Last year he had 1,000 yards, 6 TDs. I see the TDs almost doubling. I think he gets up to 10 or 11. Yards maybe around 1,100, 1,200. So I definitely see him as a receiver 1. He'll be labeled as a low-end receiver 1, but I think he finishes much higher.
So one guy who's kind of an enigma, and he came into the league with like all kinds of hype and has disappointed up until maybe the end of last season, and that's Sammy Watkins in Buffalo.
Yeah, I want to talk
about
a
lot of people are kind of shooting him up their lists and putting him in this high territory. I want to know if you're one of those people who's a believer in Sammy Watkins this year.
This one's tough for me because I truly like Sammy Watkins a lot. I think talent-wise, there's not many receivers better. And Tyrod Taylor likes airing the ball out. Like we saw last year, like he's a deep threat, a deep quarterback, and Sammy Watkins is a deep threat receiver. I have trouble trusting Rex Ryan's offenses. Just going back to his Jets days, I never know what to expect. Whether it's LaShawn McCoy or Carlos Williams or Tyrod Taylor.
Well, Greg Roman is running the show on
right,
offense. So.
Right, but like I feel like I don't know. I think I wouldn't be comfortable if he was my best wide receiver. I think if he was my wide receiver 2, I'll roll the dice on him because I'll take that wide receiver 1 upside.
So let me tell you about his last 9 games last year. 168 yards, 1 touchdown. 14 yards, 39 yards. 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. 109 yards, 1 touchdown. 81 yards, 1 touchdown. 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. 84 yards, and 136 yards. So you're talking about a guy who, after he had his blow-up of saying that he needs to get the ball more, the Bills seemed to listen, and he seemed to reward them handsomely with these huge games that he was giving Tyrod Taylor. And these are all, some of them are 3-catch games, but for the most part, 5, 6, 8-catch games. And that's the kind of production that people thought that he would have coming out of Clemson in the first round, where the Bills trade 2 first-round picks and move up for him. But I agree with you. I think I wouldn't be comfortable with him as my wide receiver 1, especially with his durability history. Of course, these last 9 games ended in week 13, So if you count on him for your fantasy playoffs, he kind of boned you with that. But
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So like, I think if you're talking about him as your wide receiver 1, I'd have a backup option. If not, I would like him as my wide receiver 2. But he's probably gonna be reached for in drafts, so maybe it might not even be worth it for you to consider him in your where he's gonna be going, unless you really, really think that he's gonna have a great season.
Yeah, similar to what I said about Des Bryant, I think with Sammy, it's almost as I'm worrisome about Tyrod Taylor, just because his body's a little fragile, he likes running the ball. If he gets hurt, who's coming in? Is it Matt Castle, EJ Manuel? Like who's the next guy? And if those guys come in, your wide receiver 1 who you drafted is pretty much unstartable in most standard scoring leagues. So I want to stay away from Sammy Watkins, but every player on the list has a value. It's no matter where you're drafting him, right? Like all these are draftable players. It's just where's the return on investment? What are you giving up? I'm not giving up a 3rd rounder or a 4th rounder for Sammy.
You got someone you want to talk about next?
Yeah, so one guy that's very interesting to me is Jeremy Maclin. We know Alex Smith was allergic to wide receivers last year.
Yep.
Probably still is a little bit. Partly because of the system. I don't really know what Andy Reid's doing there with wide receivers, but Maclin had a pretty good year. I mean, if you look at throughout the year, he started off a little slow. He finished with 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, which a good wide receiver 2. Like that's a solid wide receiver 2, a great number 3. I wouldn't trust him as your number 1. Mm-hmm. Do you trust him? The Chiefs are a good team. He's a number 1 option there. I mean, thinking Kelsey is as a second option, but you could probably vice versa. Do you still think he exceeds his output from last year? Or stays about constant.
I think he's gonna be around where he was last year. You're talking about 87 catches, 1,088 yards, 8 touchdowns. Again, the Chiefs don't like going to their wide receivers, but Andy Reid clearly likes Jeremy Maclin. He jumped on him right away when he left Philadelphia, and as you expect with most new wide receivers in an offense, it took him a while to gel with his quarterback. Week 3 breaks out 141 yards and touchdown, and then week 4 148 yards, and that continued off and on through the year. And I think he's not going to be the kind of guy who's going to win you a week, but if you have to plug him in at a flex as a 3rd wide receiver, or plug him in as a wide receiver 2 if you're desperate, I think there's a lot of worse people that you could have in that situation. So I think Jeremy Maclin's definitely worth having. I think that he's the kind of guy who's going to give you a good value, where he's going to be being taken in drafts. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you have ADPs in front of you or anything like that, but they're going to be. I think Jeremy Maclin's going to go in the right spot where you're going to be able to grab him, and he's going to give you the kind of return that you're going to expect from that spot.
Yeah, Macklin's going about 57 right now, which seems about right. I mean, well, it's like a wide receiver 2-ish.
Wide receiver 2, yeah. Like,
maybe a flex option, a great flex.
If you're going to go if you're going to go quarterback last, then you're talking about your 3rd wide receiver or your 2nd wide receiver if you drafted a tight end, something like that.
So Knuckle, I realized in your draft rankings, you left out someone who had 14 touchdowns last year.
Did I?
And that's Doug Baldwin.
Okay.
Isn't that? I'm shocked that Doug Baldwin had 14 touchdowns. I had to double check because I hate Doug Baldwin, but he finished with 14 touchdowns last year. Now, it may have just been an error on your part, but do you like Doug Baldwin?
I don't. No, I don't.
So you actually like Tyler Lockett, the young speedster in Seattle, better?
I like Tyler Lockett a lot better. So Doug Baldwin, or A.B. Baldwin, as our friends call him, I just don't see the appeal. This is just a strictly game film take. I'm sorry. Numbers back it up that he's a good fantasy wide receiver or whatever. I'm sure he's gonna give you a lot of good weeks, but based on what I've seen, this is just a personal preference that I have that I just would rather not be in the Doug Baldwin business, because I think Russell Wilson's the kind of quarterback who's gonna want to spread the ball around, and what Doug Baldwin does well, I think Tyler Lockett can grow to do better. And I think if Tyler Lockett is going to emerge as one of the most used wide receivers in this offense, I would rather have him than Doug Baldwin.
Also, Doug Baldwin had a lot of big 2-3 touchdown games, which when I see that, I don't like that as much. I'd rather you have 1 touchdown every game. But he has these random explosions where he had 3-4 touchdowns in a game. So that's definitely worrisome for me. I think he's probably a flex, maybe a wide receiver 2. It's interesting to see what they do with Russell Wilson and who's he targeting now. Yeah. So I mean, he that's pretty much his number 1 target. So if you like Russell Wilson, you have to like Doug Baldwin.
Yeah. So I want to with my next guy. I want to do a little this or that. So
this or that.
All right.
C.
Who do you feel better about having on your team between these two guys? Kelvin Benjamin, Jarvis Landry.
Ooh, this is tough. I like both of them a lot. I don't like them as my number one, but I love both of them as wide receiver 2.
Okay. Without looking at your phone, don't look at your phone.
Am I looking?
Off the cuff. Go ahead. This isn't only one. So
I'm going Jarvis. I'm going Jarvis, and it's close. Jarvis? I like Kelvin. I'm going Jarvis.
Jarvis Landry or Julian Edelman?
I do Edelman. I'm a target guy. I like targets. Edelman will give me targets in a half one PPR.
All right, now draft position. Kelvin Benjamin, Jordy Nelson.
Oh, Jordy. Take Jordy.
Based on draft position, you're gonna take Jordy Nelson over Kelvin Benjamin?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
because I'm a pussy when it comes to like injuries, and I'm scared. You know, Kelvin can get hurt again.
But why does Jordy? Why does?
I don't know. I'm more worried. For some reason, I'm more worried about Kelvin's frame as a taller receiver. I feel like I don't know. With
bigger.
No, but like
more sturdy younger guy.
They have more issues.
You're gonna go with
their
Jordy?
feet. They have more issues with their feet. Taller people.
Okay, I guess.
I don't know.
Neither of us are doctors. We're both consultants, so I don't know.
You disagree with me, obviously. Speak your mind, young fella.
I think that people are going to be taking Jordy Nelson second or third round. Yes, I think that Kelvin Benjamin probably will be drafted a little bit higher than where he should be being taken. But at the same point, I think that taking a Kelvin Benjamin in round 5, when he led the league in red zone targets his rookie year, is going to be the safer risk than taking a Jordy Nelson in late 2, early 3.
Touche. I understand. How about your Jarvis Landry? Because I think Landry's due for a huge year with Tannehill at the helm. So why are you not as high?
I just don't like the yards per catch with him. I feel like all those catches are within 7-8 yards on the line.
Yeah.
And until he can stretch that out, I don't like him. And you're talking. This is one of the guys I wanted to talk about that. When you're talking about standard versus PPR versus half PPR, Jarvis Landry has significantly more value in PPR, half PPR than he does in standard. And in this case, we're talking about standard. Jarvis Landry is going to be pretty low on my list.
Yeah, Landry had 4 touchdowns in the standard league, not PPR. He's not startable. You know, I mean, you got to have a PPR or half one PPR, but he's the number one there. If you like Tannehill, you like him with Adam Gates and everything. But who knows? Jury's still out. I like Landry. I have him as a low-end wide receiver, too.
All right, let's get one more person each because I want to talk about my last guy.
Okay. So, one more guy that... Let me see who I want to talk about. Oh, yeah. I like this guy. Golden Tate. Right. So, we all know Calvin Johnson recently retired. Golden Tate moves into the number one guy. Tate's had a pretty good last couple of years in fantasy football. I mean, partly due to the attention that probably Calvin drew, and respectfully so. Golden Tate has been good in PPR leagues. What do you think about Golden Tate? I mean, I think that the targets will be there, but it's a matter of will he score touchdowns?
Yeah, you mentioned that he's the number one guy, and are we really sure he's the number one guy this year? Because the Detroit Lions went out and got Marvin Jones in the offseason, and I don't know about you, I would put those two on a very similar skill level. Maybe Golden Tate is a little bit more, but when you're talking about the kind of role that Marvin Jones is going to fill, that big wide receiver that can play on the outside and stretch the field a la Calvin Johnson, yeah, he's not Megatron.
That's a big comparison.
He's not Marvin Megatron Jones, but at the same time, could he fill that? Could he be the number one option in that offense? And I think that he could.
Number one option in terms of targets, because that's what you're referring to, right?
Maybe not targets, but
touchdowns.
Like touchdowns, yardage, yard per catch.
This offense is frankly one of the most interesting offenses this year. Like,
it is.
I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to run the ball? Stafford's used to airing it out 40, 50 times a game.
Yo, Jim Bob Cooter, whose name I love to say, is got his hands full for sure.
I mean, Amir Abdullah maybe get everything. I mean, who knows? Who knows what's happening in his offense?
All right, so I want to know why you hate our boy.
Stefan?
I put Stefan Diggs on my list, but he seems to be absent from yours. So I want to know why.
So
explain yourself.
For some reason, when I see one good year from a player, I always need to see a rebound year, and that's just something I always do. Like, it's part of the reason why certain players on my draft board are lower than others is because I've seen that 1 year explosion, like Allen Robinson, and I mean he's a young player. It's not his fault he's been in the league for 1 year, right? But Stefan, I think with drafting Treadwell, and I think Teddy Bridgewater is just, I don't know what to expect from him. I like him. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Stefan Diggs is a monster. It's just a matter of will he get the targets with Treadwell there, with Kyle Rudolph still there, and AP. I mean, AP's shown no signs of slowing down.
Yeah.
He's still the workhorse, still the bell cow. It depends what the OC Turner is going to do with the offense. And, if he gets the targets, I think Stefan is upside, maybe like a low-end wide receiver 1. Like, that's a huge statement for someone who's not even on my board.
Yeah.
For top 30. But, so what do you think about Stefan?
No, I mean, it's a speculative play for sure, but I think that the pieces are all there. You're talking about a number 1 wide receiver, and an offense that does not pass the ball a lot. I get that part.
Yeah.
But he, even as a rookie, he significantly led that team in targets last year. And you can see by Nick's jersey right now, he's wearing Maryland, which is of course Stefan Diggs' alma mater. We knew coming out of college, like when Stefan Diggs entered the draft, that he was gonna be great. Was he gonna be great this early? He definitely jumped the gun for us. We thought maybe 2-3 years down the line we'd be talking about a breakout Stefan Diggs, but he did it his rookie year, and we were really happy for him. But his better numbers were early on in the year. You're talking about weeks 2 and 3, 129 yards and 108 yards and a touchdown. It seemed to come down a little bit as the year went on, so he's definitely an early wonder. But at the same time, that's with Mike Wallace in the offense. He still led the league led the team in targets, and has all the talent in the world. And you're talking about coming into this year being an effective route runner for Teddy Bridgewater, who's going to have AP in the backfield, and those defenses are still going to be sucked in, and giving Diggs plenty of room to work out in the back. So again, we're talking about where he's going to be drafted. He's going to be drafted probably well after you draft all of your starters. I've done mock drafts already where he wasn't even taken, and I think that was a joke.
Insane value.
Yeah. So
he's going to be on your waiver first week if that's the case.
Yeah. So if you can grab him in like the last couple rounds, I don't see why not, because all he's going to do is give you wide receiver 2 upside. If not solid wide receiver 1 in a bigger league, like a 12-14 team league.
Only University of Maryland can make such a good player look so mediocre. But this guy has insane talent.
The guy had linebackers throwing to him at one point.
Insane.
That's not a joke.
No,
Go look it up.
Did.
We went through all of our quarterbacks and literally had a linebacker starting quarterback while Stefan Diggs was on campus. And we're talking about a guy who at one time was the number 1 wide receiver recruiter in the country. So we can talk about Stefan Diggs all day. I think you can take him late, and I think he's gonna be a great value for you, because I think drafting guys like Marcus Wheaton or anybody else or Sammy Coates off the Steelers, Stefan Diggs is going to get a lot better value. He's number 1 wide receiver in that offense. He's going to be great for you. So good luck on your drafts this year.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
No mention of Skins receivers.
No mention of Skins receivers.
Real quick, Pierre or Desean in our half-point PPR league. Who you taking?
I'm taking Pierre.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Give me Desean all day.
Yeah, well, that's you. I take the consistency. You take the lottery ticket. But with that, good luck on your drafts. Check out Nik Nak Podcast. Check out our videos. We'll be back with another segment in a little bit.